One year after the sanctuary incident, Amelia's camp is invited by Anastasia's camp to the Watergate city of Pristella, alongside Felt and Crush's camps, enticed by a magic stone to revive Puck. Unfortunately, after arriving in the city with Subaru, Beatrice, Otto, and Garfield, Amelia's deal for the stone falls through when Subaru befriends local bard Liliana Masquerade, who the merchant is infatuation with. After reuniting with the camp leaders, including Julius, Reinhard, Felix, and Wilhelm, they are surprised when Priscilla's camp crashes the meetup, including Reinhard's father, Heinkel Estrella. This causes Subaru to learn about Wilhelm's strained relationship with Reinhard, whom he unjustly blamed for his wife's death. Meanwhile, mocked by visions of Elsa, Garfield wanders the city with Anastasia's follower Mimi when he shockingly runs into his mother, who is still alive. Later, Subaru, Amelia, and Beatrice encounter Liliana performing with Priscilla, who is fond of the songstress. However, after breaking with the group, Subaru is confronted by the Sin Archbishop of Wrath, Sirius Romane Conti, who preaches to a crowd before dropping a child to his death, which inexplicably kills the audience too. As a result, Subaru returns by death to his encounter with Liliana and Priscilla. Having mere minutes, Subaru rushes to the spot Sirius will appear to rescue the child, Luzbel, only to learn that the Sin Archbishop has also captured his friend, Tina. Sirius then arrives and easily overpowers Subaru, killing him. Respawning again, Subaru realizes he is no match for Sirius and seeks Reinhard's help, convincing Felt's follower, Ratchins, to summon him. However, while Reinhard quickly arrives and easily kills Sirius, this inexplicably causes everybody else to die in the exact same way, including Subaru. Respawning for a third time, Subaru privately informs Beatrice about the incoming attack, and they brainstorm a countermeasure against Sirius's damage-sharing ability. Having noticed their actions, Amelia appears and insists on helping them, which Subaru reluctantly allows. After confronting Sirius, the Sin Archbishop becomes enraged upon seeing Amelia and fights her while Subaru and Beatrice rescue Luzbel. Sirius seemingly immolates Amelia by catching her off guard using Tina as a hostage. However, although knocked unconscious, she is saved by the Sin Archbishop of Greed, Regulus Corneus, who intends to take her as his 79th wife. At the city gates, Otto encounters the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Lai Botankaitos. Back at the battle, Subaru tries to rescue Amelia from Regulus using Invisible Providence, but it fails. However, it causes Sirius to focus on him, believing Subaru is Beetlejuice. The archbishops then leave per the Gospel's instructions, with Regulus grievously injuring Subaru, which is copied to everyone else in the area by Sirius's authority. Meanwhile, after interacting with his mother's new family, Garfield learns she has amnesia after her current husband rescued her from the landslide. Later, Subaru wakes up in an underground bunker, tended to by Al and Felix, and learns that Beatrice used up her mana to heal the injured. Joining Crush, Anastasia, and Wilhelm, he's informed that the witch's cult has taken control of the 4 towers surrounding the city, and the Sin Archbishop of Lust, Capella Emerata Lugunica, is threatening to flood it if they don't receive the remains of the witch buried beneath the city. Concurrently, Garfield runs into his mother again, who is worried about her missing family and promises he will find them. In the city, Heinkel holds Felt hostage to prevent Reinhard from leaving. At the Muse Company base, Subaru and the group discuss Capella's potential relationship to a Marata Lugunica from 50 years ago, and that the witch's remains are only known by the Council of 10, including Muse's leader, Kiritaka. Garfield then arrives carrying a bloodied Mimi due to an encounter with 2 witch cultists, a woman and a man with 4 arms, with Mimi having a wound that won't close, which Wilhelm recognizes. After Kiritaka reveals that the witch's remains can't be removed or else it will destroy the city, and learning that Capella has several hostages, they plan a counterattack to regain control of City Hall, now joined by Julius and Ricardo. Al heads off to find Priscilla. The group battle the witch cultists as Capella, transformed into a dragon, appears to taunt them before leaving. Subaru, Crush, and Julius chase after her when they run into the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Roy Alford. Meanwhile, Amelia wakes up naked in a bed and is greeted by Regulus, who asks if she is a virgin. Regulus is delighted by Amelia's ignorance and introduces her to one of his wives, number 184. Julius stays behind to fight Roy, while Subaru and Crush head into City Hall, quickly subduing a dragon and rescuing a hostage. Subaru is shocked to find a room covered in giant flies, just as Crush is knocked out by the hostage, revealing herself to be Capella, who has the power to transform herself and others. She transforms into Amelia to mock Subaru's idea of love, rips off his injured leg, and proceeds to give him and Crush some of her dragon's blood. Meanwhile, Kiritaka is unable to get in contact with the Council of Ten when the Muse Company is attacked by Sirius. Anastasia is able to escape thanks to her followers and Kiritaka's personal guard, the White Dragon Scales. Elsewhere, Otto uses his powers to cause a distraction, allowing Reinhardt to rescue Felt from Heinkel. Just then, the water gates are suddenly opened and the city begins flooding. The transformed dragon attempts to fly away with Krush and Subaru, but Capella's attack causes Subaru to plummet into the water. As Emilia watches the devastation, Capella announces 3 more demands: the Tome of Wisdom, the Artificial Spirit, and to not interfere with the upcoming wedding. 184 tells Emilia that if she tries to escape, the witch cult will reopen the floodgates. Subaru awakens, having been saved from the flood by Priscilla and Liliana, and is shocked to discover his leg fully healed and with regenerative properties thanks to the dragon's blood Capella gave him. Priscilla informs him of the new demands, just as she takes out a group of demi-beasts that have been unleashed on the city. They enter a refugee shelter, where the civilians are erratic due to Wrath's authority, but Liliana sings to them, revealing she has the power to override the authority. Elsewhere, while trying on her wedding dress with Regulus, he takes his anger out on 184, nearly killing her, causing Emilia to be shocked that 184 displays no emotion over it. Subaru reunites with the group, learning that while they lost the Muse Company, they regained City Hall. But also that Krush is currently suffering badly due to the dragon's blood. Subaru informs Anastasia and Julius about Beatrice being an artificial spirit, and that the Tome of Wisdom has been destroyed. While discussing how to deal with the unrest in the refugee shelters with little casualties, Subaru declares his desire to save everyone, defeat all their enemies, and achieve their happy ending. Meanwhile, Emilia spies on Regulus, who is arguing with Capella on Amitia, learning they weren't responsible for opening the floodgates. She goes to use the Metia for herself, when unexpectedly, Al calls it. Al finds a Metia from a witch cultist, inadvertently calling Emilia, who informs him of the locations of Regulus and Capella. He delivers her message to Subaru and the group, now joined by Garfield at City Hall, just as Subaru plans to use the Master Metia to combat Wrath's authority affecting the city, by broadcasting a hopeful message to everyone. Garfield volunteers Subaru to do it, which is supported by everyone else. Al voices his concerns over Subaru taking up so much responsibility, which ultimately convinces him to accept. Meanwhile, Emilia learns from 184 that Regulus killed everyone who knew her and all his other wives, all for the sake of his possessiveness. Subaru gives an impactful and earnest speech to the city, talking about his insecurities, yet firm resolve to save everyone and defeat the threats, which manages to reach all the civilians and relieving some of their anxiety. Emilia voices her confidence in Subaru and her desire to help 184, while the rest of the group in the City Hall express their approval over Subaru's speech. Just as they are about to resume their counterattack planning, they are joined by Otto and Reinhard. While discussing the witch cult's demands, Otto reveals that he acquired the burned-up remains of the Tome of Wisdom and brought it into the city to be restored. He secretly tells Subaru he desires to use it to future-proof against any secret plans of Roswell's. Subaru visits an awakened and suffering Krush, but upon touching her, parts of her infection is healed and transferred to his right arm. She stops him before he can do any more. Wilhelm then reveals to Subaru the identities of the 2 witch cultists, the resurrected bodies of 8 Arms, Kurgan, the strongest swordsman of the Wallachia Empire, and his wife, the previous sword saint Teresia van Astrea. He also reveals that Teresia lost her divine protection, which transferred to Reinhard during her battle with the White Whale, which led to her death. The group are soon joined by Priscilla and Liliana, who volunteers to confront Sirius, using Liliana's singing to counter Wrath's authority. At the church, Regulus begins the ceremony, in which Emilia confronts him on his feelings about love, increasingly enraging him. Before he can retaliate, Subaru and Reinhard bust through the doors and introduce themselves, to Emilia's delight. As Priscilla suits up alongside Liliana to confront Sirius, she entrusts the protection of City Hall to Al, as well as telling Liliana someone other than the witch cult has been hunting down the Council of Ten. Garfield and Wilhelm find Capella and the corpse cultists, engaging in battle with Kurgan and Teresia respectively. At the church, Regulus halts Subaru and Reinhard from attacking him by threatening to kill his wives, and when he starts to choke out Emilia, Reinhard surrenders to him. Reinhard is forced to endure a fatal attack, initially killing him, but is quickly revived thanks to his divine protection and retaliates. Otto encounters Felt and the City Knights facing off against Lai, realizing that there are 2 Sin Archbishops of Gluttony. He starts to distract him upon learning he wants to find Subaru. Elsewhere, Julius and Ricardo find Roy and engage in battle. As Reinhard continues to fight Regulus, Subaru and Amelia attempt to get 184 and the rest of the wives to safety, but they refuse, too scared of incurring Regulus's wrath. Meanwhile, Garfield and Kurgan are crushed by a mass of flesh left behind by Capella, while the real Archbishop confronts Crush and Felix. Capella provokes Felix into attacking her, and after stating she has no idea how to cure dragon's blood, Crush is revealed to be a disguised Anastasia, blasting Capella down a trap into the underground tunnels, where Al is waiting for her. Meanwhile, Subaru, Amelia, and Reinhard try multiple different attempts to injure Regulus, but he remains unscathed each time. Attempting to deduce any information, Amelia says the wives referred to him as a little king. Subaru then realizes that all the archbishops are named after stars from Earth, Regulus meaning little king in Latin. Elsewhere, Sirius almost immediately puts Liliana under her spell, leading Priscilla to kiss her to snap her out of it. Sirius lures a group of brainwashed civilians toward them, so Priscilla tasks Liliana with breaking the spell while she fights her. Sirius is impressed by Priscilla's resistance towards her, but is able to rile her up by mentioning the names of stories, allowing her to land a direct hit. Back with Regulus, upon Amelia mentioning she felt nothing when he touched her, Subaru gets Reinhard to confirm his heart isn't beating, only to then be thrust up far into the atmosphere. With this knowledge, Subaru develops a plan, letting Amelia flee the battle, while he confidently reveals to Regulus the power of his authority, Lionheart, the ability to freeze his body in time to the Archbishop's absolute fury. Priscilla survives Sirius's attack unscathed, revealing her power to transfer any damage towards herself to one of her valuable items. Sirius attempts to reaffirm her desire for a mutual understanding with everyone, but when Liliana calls her out on the absurdities of it, her facade is broken, and she retaliates in a rage. While Priscilla continues fighting, Liliana reaches the top of the tower to sing her song towards the brainwashed civilians. She reflects upon her life when she grew up with her family in a traveling troupe, and, unsatisfied with her contributions, went off on her own to become King of the Bards. She traveled from town to town with mixed success, even discovering her parents moved on with a new child, nearly giving up in exhaustion until she receives inspiration for a song that is warmly received, eventually leading to her meeting Kiritaka in Pristella. Liliana's song successfully frees all of the civilians. In her anger, Sirius attempts to use Tina as her hostage again, but Priscilla easily rescues the girl and slashes Sirius, knocking her into the canal. Liliana falls into the lake after the tower is destroyed, and is saved by Kiritaka before she passes out. Meanwhile, as Subaru continues his explanation about Regulus's authority, he deduces his wives are connected to his little kingdom, entrusting Amelia with severing it. Arriving at the church, Amelia convinces Regulus's wives to help defeat him, getting them to admit how much they hate him. 184 also reveals her real name, Sylphie. Amelia discovers the wives' role in Regulus's power. He connects his heart with theirs, allowing him to stop time on himself without consequence. Concluding that defeating Regulus requires their deaths, the wives prepare to commit suicide. However, Amelia instead puts them into cryosleep using her magic. She then returns to Subaru's side, but Regulus's authority is still in effect, since he considers Amelia one of his wives. Recalling his experiences with Beetlejuice and Satella, Subaru uses invisible prominence to destroy the connection between Amelia and Regulus's hearts, finally rendering him vulnerable. Panicking, Regulus challenges the two to a 1-versus-1 duel, only to be met by a returned Reinhard, who accepts his challenge. The Sword Saint blasts the Sin Archbishop into the sky before striking him back down, critically injuring him. As he dies, Regulus realizes Amelia is the girl from 100 years ago, and curses her with his last breath, despite her not even remembering him. Afterward, Amelia unfreezes the wives, and Subaru expresses confidence in the others winning their own battles. While battling Lai, Otto learns Felt's group was looking for a powerful Metia, so agrees to stay behind with the City Knights to keep him busy while Felt retrieves it. Elsewhere, Capella reveals to Al she's deduced he is the one responsible for opening the floodgates and killing the Council of Ten, disrupting her plans. She attempts to rile him up by transforming into Priscilla, but he slices her head off and destroys her body, only for it to regenerate once again. Meanwhile, Garfield continues to fight Kurgan, but is overwhelmed by the warrior, being further distracted by his visions of Elsa. Knocked into the catacombs, Garfield recalls a conversation with Wilhelm about Kurgan's life in the Wallachian Empire, and how he only wields all his devil cleavers to opponents he respects, which Garfield intends to make him do. Their battle leads them into a shelter, where his half-siblings are, and he overcomes the Elsa illusions after defeating a loose demon. The civilians proceed to cheer on Garfield to succeed, giving him confidence and gaining Kurgan's respect, who unleashes all his cleavers. After the two brutally beat each other, Kurgan briefly regains his sense of self to tell Garfield, "Well done," as he crumbles away. At the same time, Wilhelm continues his battle against Teresia at a stalemate. As they fight, Wilhelm attempts to reason with Teresia, but is caught off guard and defeated when Heinkel stumbles upon them. Fortunately, Reinhardt arrives before Teresia can kill them and instantly defeats her. Teresia then recalls her life. Disliking violence, she initially rejected her calling after receiving the divine protection of the Sword Saint, but reluctantly accepted when her relatives died fighting in her place, until she met Wilhelm and he took over her duties. Afterward, they started a family and lived happily for many years, until the White Whale appeared, and Heinkel convinced Teresia to join a subjugation party, despite Wilhelm's protests. Unfortunately, the assault fails when her divine protection gets transferred to Reinhardt, and she is promptly killed by Pandora. Teresia awakens in the present, in Wilhelm's arms, and the two confess their love to each other, as she once again passes on. Heinkel tries berating Reinhardt over killing his grandmother, only for the Sword Saint to show indifference. This prompts a detached Wilhelm to dismiss Reinhardt after collecting Teresia's remains, leaving behind a manic Heinkel. Otto and the City Knights find themselves unable to corner Lai, while elsewhere, Roy is able to easily outmatch Julius and Ricardo with his sword mastery, martial arts, and magic. Roy further disturbs Julius by constantly calling him brother and referring to a past event he can't remember. Meanwhile, Al activates the trap set for Capella, crumbling the entire city hall directly onto her. Outside, he reunites with Anastasia and Felix, growing suspicious upon learning that Anastasia used a magic attack earlier. Capella then reconstitutes herself in front of them. However, she states her intention to leave, which Anastasia deduces is due to the gospel. Before fleeing, she sicks several demi-beasts after them, forcing them to escape until Reinhardt arrives to take them out. Back with Lai, Otto deduces that Lai's superhuman ability is the result of obtaining the skills of whoever he consumes with his authority. Lai proceeds to demonstrate his gluttony on one of the city knights, instantly erasing his memory from everyone. After surviving more attacks, Lai is about to torture Otto to force him to give up his name when an awakened Beatrice arrives as backup. Lai surprisingly reveals to already know Beatrice's name, mimicking Rem, causing the two to realize that they must beat him now so Subaru doesn't meet him. Beatrice holds off Lai, powering her spells with magic stones given to her by Al, until Felt arrives with their secret weapon, Echidna's staff. Lai attempts to eat Felt's name, only to convulse, revealing Felt is not her birth name. Seizing the opening, Beatrice activates the staff, unleashing a magic beam that critically injures Lai. However, before they can finish him off, a third Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Louise Arneb, appears and forces them to let her and her brothers escape, ending the battle for Pristella. After reuniting with Beatrice, Garfield, and Otto, Subaru and Amelia meet with the other camps. They decide to have Amelia put Lust's victims into cryosleep until they find a cure, while the captured Sirius is to be transported to the capital for interrogation. Subaru attempts to question Sirius himself. However, she claims to be uninterested in the cult's goals and only wants to revive Betelgeuse, who she believes now resides within Subaru. She also warns him to watch out for gluttony. Afterward, as the city rebuilds, Subaru reunites with Julius, but is stunned when Amelia does not recognize him, causing him to realize Roy ate his name.